This is a frightening time we're living in right now. And I don't think it's frightening because of nuclear weapons or the fear of being drafted or even the fear of AI. I think it's frightening for some very different reasons. I think it's frightening because we live in a very doom and gloom society. With the proliferation of social media, there is so much content these days that's just completely negative and that really outlines the pitfalls of our society, whether it be men versus women or all being able to see all of the crimes that happen in our country, in our world on a regular basis. You know, before social media, there were these things happening, these calamitous things happening all over the world. And naturally, those get reported first because fear inspires people to watch more than anything. It's often quoted that fear is the most popular, driver of many people's decision-making process. But now with social media, it's more prevalent now than ever. And I think if you're not careful, you can get sucked in and wrapped up in all of this fear. And so it really caused me to think over the last 24 hours. And the conclusion that I came to was that the people that are going to be most successful in life are going to be the ones who choose not to pay attention to all of the fear, are the people that understand, even though things are different now than they were 10 years ago or 10 years prior to that, different than 10 years prior to that, the people that understand that we're always in a new moment and you have right now, with everything going on, to do the best job you can do. Now, I think you have to be careful. I think now more than ever, you have to be careful. And I think that starts with deciding who you let into your life. I think the best way to be in your personal life is to send love out to the universe. Try and espouse the ideals that make you relate to other people and share some common sense of decency and willingness to understand their emotions and their plight. But you also have to be extremely careful that you have rigorous boundaries in place so that you don't let sick individuals who would take advantage of you into your life or taint your worldview with something more negative, or people that aren't open-minded enough to know how to learn, or people that don't respect the knowledge that you've accumulated in your life. For example, somebody that's quite a bit older than somebody else. I think that now more than anything, we need people that are looking at what's out there, surveying everything that's going on. You know, we do have this race across the globe to create self-improving AI, which I believe will fundamentally change everything as we know it. Not to sound too broad, but I really do. But regardless of that, regardless of if you're in control or not, the people that are going to get the most out of life are going to be the people that look at what's in their control, have a healthy mindset, and then go out and try to do the best they can, and don't let the mentally unwell people into their lives so deeply that they affect your well-being. And that doesn't mean that you can't care for those people from afar by donating to organizations or, giving them some cash that you don't need. For example, if you're on the street and somebody needs money for food and you want to make that your philanthropy in that moment, I think that's a very admirable thing to do. I just think that right now, so many people are becoming disillusioned with this society. And when I look onto YouTube, which is simply just a reflection of reality and sometimes a majorly distorted perception of reality, which I think it is. But when you look on YouTube, you see so much doom and gloom. And I think that's partially because, like I said, fear sells so well. When I talk to AI and I want to create videos, it wants me to create the most salacious headlines I can to try and pull on people's heartstrings. Now, it does often tell me to keep it factual and not make it clickbaity, but I'm surprised at its definition of what is actually clickbaity and what's not. AI will go pretty far into making something pull on people's heartstrings. And so I think a lot of creators are doing that. They're just making the most fear-driven, emotionally driven headlines they can to pull you into content, and then making that content through that lens as well. And I think the new generation is seeing all of this happen, right? We've got Gen Z, which I believe is 14 to 29 right now in 2026. And then the next generation, they're calling Gen Alpha. What the scientists and statisticians are seeing is that these younger generations are so afraid to work to improve. They're so afraid to spend time on anything that they're not good at. They have almost zero grit. And I think that's a byproduct of all of this doom and gloom. And I'm just worried that we're going to have a lot of unhappy people in the future, and that might create this even bigger divide between the mega rich and the people that have nothing. And what you have to realize is the longer you do something, the more it becomes ingrained as the status quo in your own mind. And the moment you change and do something new, and then you repeat that habit over and over again, day by day, being consistent, that's how you change things. So I want to encourage you to stop looking at so much negative content on YouTube. Pursue with every ounce of energy in your being all of the things that make you happy. And take accountability for your actions. And realize that life is what you make it. And by keeping a positive attitude, and also by understanding that there is a lot of danger out there and you need to be careful, skeptical, but in a healthy way, you're going to live the best possible life that you can. and understanding that everyone is truly an individual and a product of their experiences and going through this life, making their own choices, and those choices are compounding over time to change who that person is or keep them the same. So, bottom line, stay positive, realize that now is the only moment that we're in, and you can do whatever you want. And you can go on to do amazing things. And just because we have AI coming, or self-improving AI coming, just because there are wars going on, just because your party might not be the party in power right now, that doesn't mean that it won't all change in the future. And we desperately need new people and new minds creating new things. So now more than ever, we need Gen Z. We need Gen Alpha in the next 5 to 10 years to be the ones who come up with new great ideas so that all of us can continue to be inspired. So don't worry about all the doom and gloom you see. Keep the hope alive in your heart and use it daily to manifest the reality that you want. I hope you guys have a great night, and I'll catch you mañana. Peace.